Welcome to Monk's Moon Temple. I am deeply glad you're here. Wherever you're listening, in the quiet of night, the first light of dawn, or a brief sanctuary in a busy day, this space is for you. You may have arrived carrying a quiet hum of restlessness, a weight of worry, or simply a curiosity about the mind's noise. That feeling is not a flaw. It is an invitation to come home. Tonight, we won't fight that noise. Instead, we'll learn the gentle art of recognition. How to sit with your experience as a compassionate witness. These pathways have been walked for over 2,500 years, since the Buddha's awakening. This is not abstract philosophy, but practical wisdom for transforming your relationship with your inner world. So, settle in. Let your shoulders soften. Your hands can rest. There's nowhere else to be. Just here. Just now. Take a gentle breath with me. In and out. And as you exhale, let's begin. I'd like to start with a story about a violin maker named Leo. He was known for instruments of profound, resonant tone. A student once asked his secret. Leo smiled and led him to his workshop wall, where a single, unvarnished violin hung. The secret, he said, is in the wood's memory. He explained that the finest tone came from spruce that grew high on mountain slopes, where constant winds shaped its grain into intricate, swirling patterns. This wood remembers the wind, Leo said. Every gust, every storm, is encoded in its fibers. When a string vibrates, it doesn't just produce a note, it releases that memory. The struggle gives it its voice. A tree from a sheltered grove grows straight and plain. Its sound is simple, one-dimensional. But this, he touched the violin, this sings with the story of the mountain. Our difficult experiences are those prevailing winds. They shape us, often in ways we wouldn't choose. We see the knots and swirls they create in our lives as flaws. But the Buddha's teaching suggests something else. These very patterns, of loss, challenge, heartbreak, can create a depth, a resonance, a compassion in us that a sheltered life cannot. The practice isn't to seek storms, but to understand that, when they come, they are shaping the unique grain of your character. The goal isn't a plain, straight board, but an instrument capable of profound music. If this idea of finding music in your struggles resonates, consider subscribing to Monk's Moon Temple for more guides home. This leads us to the first core principle, understanding the nature of awareness itself. Imagine you are sitting beside a deep, clear mountain lake at dusk. The water is still, a perfect mirror. This lake is your fundamental awareness, your capacity to know and experience. Now, a breeze stirs. Ripples cross the surface, small, fleeting. Those are your thoughts. What's for dinner? I need to reply to that email. The ripples come and go. Then, a leaf falls, plip, a sensation. A fish jumps, a sudden emotion. Clouds reflect on the surface, memories, dreams. The water can hold it all, ripples, leaves, reflections, even a storm that churns the surface into chaos. Here is the pivotal insight: you are not the ripples. You are not the leaf, the fish, or the storm clouds. You are the lake itself. The vast, deep, still water that holds all these temporary phenomena. The lake does not cling to a particular ripple. It does not panic when the surface is choppy. It knows, inherently, that stillness is its nature, and movement is simply what plays upon it. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we forget we are the lake and instead identify completely with the passing weather on its surface. We think, "I am anxious," when in truth, we are the awareness within which anxiety is temporarily moving. Let's feel this. Pause. Notice the next thought that appears. Watch it like a ripple appearing on your inner lake. See it form, spread, and fade. Now, notice what watched the ripple. That silent, knowing presence, the lake itself, is closer to who you truly are than any passing thought. Thoughts are events. You are the space for events. This understanding is the foundation of peace. When a hurricane of fear churns the surface of your mind, you can feel the wind and waves. You don't deny the storm, but a part of you knows you are the deep water, immeasurably vast beneath the turbulence. Storms are surface events. They cannot disturb the depths. And because they are surface events, they are, by nature, temporary. This brings us to the Buddha's foundational teaching of anicca, impermanence. Everything that arises, passes. Every beginning contains its end. This is not pessimism, but the fundamental rhythm of life. A story comes to mind. A gardener was famous for her peonies, enormous blooms that were the envy of the town. People would beg for her secret. One year, during the peak of bloom, she invited everyone to her garden at dawn. They arrived to find her not admiring the flowers, but carefully, tenderly, cutting every single perfect bloom and placing them in baskets. The crowd was horrified. "Why destroy such beauty?" they cried. She smiled, handing out the blossoms. "Their beauty is in their departure," she said. "If they stayed on the stem, you'd grow accustomed, you'd stop seeing them. You might even forget to water the plant. But knowing they will fall makes you truly see them now. The cutting isn't destruction. It's an invitation to appreciate. And it makes room for next year's growth." She taught them that clinging to the bloom guarantees suffering. Appreciating it fully, while understanding its nature, brings peace. Your experiences are those peonies. Every joy, every pain, every thought is in full bloom for only a moment. We suffer when we try to glue the petals back on a dying flower. Peace is found in appreciating the bloom while it's here, and letting it go when its time is over, knowing the plant of your awareness is perennial. The end of one thing is the beginning of another. The empty stem is not a tragedy, it is a promise. So, we've begun to see our awareness as a lake, holding the temporary ripples of thought. Now, let's explore the mechanism through which we create most of our own pain. The Buddha called this the second arrow. Imagine you're walking through a forest. Suddenly, you feel a sharp sting on your arm, you've brushed against a stinging nettle. That's the first arrow. It's immediate, physical, unavoidable. The pain is real. Now, what happens next? The mind takes over. Why wasn't I watching where I was going? I'm so careless. This is going to swell up and ruin my whole hike. What if I have an allergic reaction? This spiral of worry, self-criticism, and catastrophic forecasting, that is the second arrow. And the Buddha taught that while the first arrow of life's inevitable pains is often outside our control, the second arrow is entirely our own creation. We are the archer. Most of our suffering isn't the initial sting. It's the story we tell about it. The first arrow is the event, a difficult conversation. The second arrow is the narrative, they must hate me. I always say the wrong thing. This will damage our relationship forever. The first arrow is a feeling of loneliness. The second arrow is the belief, I am unlovable. I will always be alone. I witnessed a beautiful example of choosing not to fire the second arrow with my own nephew when he was young. He had spent all afternoon building an elaborate castle out of wooden blocks. It was his masterpiece. As he reached to place the final flag, his sleeve caught a tower, and the entire structure collapsed into a heap of chaos. He froze. I saw his face crumple, the first arrow of shock and disappointment landing cleanly. I braced for the second arrow, the tears, the frustration, I ruined it. But he just sat there, looking at the pile. Then, he took a deep, shaky breath and said, well, that was a good castle. Now I get to build a different one. He felt the fall. He didn't deny it. But he didn't build a story of failure on top of it. He simply met the reality of the blocks on the floor and began anew. His resilience wasn't in avoiding the fall, but in refusing to shoot himself with thoughts of ruin. Your practice is to notice that space between the sting and the story. In that gap, you have a choice. You can feel the frustration of being stuck in traffic without adding, my whole day is ruined. You can feel the hurt of a criticism without weaving it into a tapestry of, I am not enough. This isn't positive thinking, it's clear seeing. It's feeling the weather without writing a tragic novel about it. Now, how do we cultivate this clear seeing? We train the mind through a practice the Buddha emphasized above all others, mindfulness of breath, or anapanasati. This is the cornerstone. Your breath is an ever-present anchor, a bridge between the conscious and unconscious, the doing and the being. The instruction is profoundly simple. You sit. You feel the natural breath. You notice the sensation of air entering and leaving. In, know you are breathing in. Out, know you are breathing out. You are not trying to breathe deeply or in a special pattern. You are simply being present with the breath as it is. And then, inevitably, you will forget. The mind will wander off into a memory, a plan, a daydream. This is not failure. This is the critical moment of the practice. The magic is in the noticing that you have wandered. That moment of waking up from the trance of thought, that is mindfulness being born. So, with kindness, without any self-judgment, you gently return your attention to the next breath. You come back. You will do this hundreds, thousands of times. Each return is a repetition that strengthens the muscle of presence. It is like training a puppy. When it wanders, you don't yell. You just patiently bring it back. Your mind is that puppy. Its nature is to explore. Your job is gentle guidance. Let's try this together for just 30 seconds. Wherever you are, let your attention settle on the physical feeling of breathing. Feel the air moving at the nostrils, or the rise and fall of your chest or belly. Just follow one complete breath in and out. If your mind wanders, that's perfectly fine. Just notice where it went, and gently guide it back to the breath. There's no perfect state to achieve. Just this breath. And this one. Good. This simple act, done consistently, builds an inner refuge. When the storms of emotion or thought arise, you have a place to drop anchor, the steady rhythm of your own aliveness. You may not stop the storm, but you find the calm within it. The breath is your unmoving trunk in the swaying forest. But this practice extends far beyond the cushion. The Buddhist concept of sati, or mindfulness, is about remembering to be fully present in all of life. It's about drinking the tea and actually tasting it. It's about feeling the water on your hands while washing dishes. It's about listening to someone with your full attention, not just planning your reply. This is how we clean the lens of perception throughout the day. I once knew a bookbinder, an elderly man with ink-stained fingers. His shop was filled with the smell of old paper and leather glue. The work was meticulous, slow. I asked him if he ever found it tedious. He looked surprised. Tedious? Each step is the whole world, he said. When I fold the signatures, I feel the grain of the paper. When I sew, I feel the pull of the thread. When I glue the spine, I smell the hide and see the bond form. If my mind is on the finished book, I will make a mistake. The joy is in the folding, in the sewing. The finished book is just a result. The craft is here. He was describing perfect sati. He wasn't waiting for life to happen when the book was done. His life was happening in each precise, present moment of the craft. Your invitation is to choose one ordinary activity today and do it with that quality of immersion. When you walk, feel your feet connecting with the ground. When you eat, notice the colors, textures, and flavors. You are not waiting for your real life to begin after the task is finished. This is it. The task, fully inhabited, becomes a doorway to aliveness and peace. We've begun to anchor ourselves in the breath and in present moment awareness. Now, let's look more closely at the nature of the thoughts themselves. The practice of vipassana, or insight meditation, invites us to do just that. It's about using the clarity we cultivate to see directly into the true nature of our experience. Imagine you are sitting in a comfortable chair by a window. Outside the window is a busy street. This is a perfect metaphor for your mind. You are the one sitting in the chair, aware and comfortable. The window is your mindfulness. And outside, the traffic flows, cars, buses, bicycles, pedestrians. These are your thoughts, sensations, and feelings. Most of the time, we don't stay in the chair. We see an interesting car, a compelling thought, and we jump up, run outside, and hitch a ride. We get completely caught up in it, driven away to some distant neighborhood of worry or memory. The practice of vipassana is to train yourself to stay in the chair. You acknowledge the traffic. You see the flashy red car of anger, the slow truck of sadness, the speedy scooter of anxiety. But you don't run outside. You simply watch them pass by the window. You note anger, planning, remembering, and you return to the feeling of the chair, the stillness of the room. This creates a revolutionary separation. You are not the traffic, you are the awareness watching the traffic. The Buddha taught that through this careful, non-judgmental observation, we come to see three fundamental characteristics of all conditioned existence. We've touched on the first, anicca, impermanence. When you watch thoughts from the chair, you see it directly. A thought arises, it hangs around for a bit, and it passes. A feeling swells, peaks, and fades. Nothing has a permanent address in your mind. Everything is a transient visitor. The second characteristic is dukkha, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Vipassana reveals how trying to cling to these impermanent things, to make a passing thought or pleasurable feeling permanent, inevitably leads to a sense of friction, of things not being quite right. You see how the mind grasps at pleasant traffic and resists unpleasant traffic, and how that very grasping and resisting is the source of discontent. Peace is found in the chair, in letting the traffic be whatever it is. The third is anatta, or non-self. This is a profound insight. As you watch the parade of thoughts, feelings, and sensations, you begin to see there is no solid, unchanging you behind it all. There is no little person in your head driving the cars. There is just the process, seeing, hearing, thinking, feeling. What you called me is a flowing, dynamic event, not a fixed thing. Like a whirlpool in a river, it has a recognizable shape and function, but it is entirely made of changing water, dependent on the river's flow. There is no permanent whirlpool entity you can extract. You are a process of awareness, not a static object. A story illustrates this shift from being the traffic to watching it. A musician, a brilliant cellist, suffered from severe stage fright. Every performance was agony. Her mind would become a riot of traffic. You'll mess up. They'll hear that mistake. You're a fraud. One day, a wise teacher gave her unusual instructions. For the next week, he said, don't practice your pieces. Sit with your cello in the concert hall, alone. And just watch. Don't play a note. Just watch the thoughts and fears that arise when you imagine performing. Don't follow them. Just name them. Fear. Memory of last time. Judgment. Be the scientist of your own mind. She did this. At first, the mental traffic was a deafening roar. But as she sat, day after day, just watching and naming from her inner chair, something changed. The thoughts began to lose their urgency. They were just sounds in the room. She saw them come and go. On the day of her next performance, the fear arose again. But this time, she recognized it from her watch. Instead of becoming the fear, she thought, there's that familiar feeling. She acknowledged it, took a breath anchored in her body, and began to play. She wasn't fearless, she was simply no longer identified with the fear. It was weather outside the window. She was the musician in the chair, connected to her instrument and the music. It was her most liberated performance yet. This is the power of insight. You don't necessarily stop the traffic. You change your relationship to it. You learn you are not your thoughts, but the spacious awareness in which they appear and disappear. This is true freedom. Alongside Vipassana, we cultivated supportive partner, samatha, or tranquility meditation. If Vipassana is the clear seeing from the chair, samatha is the practice that makes the chair stable and comfortable. It's the cultivation of deep, unwavering concentration. You practice samatha by gently but consistently focusing on a single object, most commonly the breath, and returning to it every time the mind wanders. It's like training a muscle. Each return is a rep. Over time, the mind becomes less scattered, more collected, like light focused through a lens into a single, potent beam. This collected, calm mind is the ideal instrument for the clear seeing of Vipassana. A agitated, distracted mind is like a choppy lake, reflecting a broken image. A calm, concentrated mind is like a still lake, reflecting the moon, reality, with perfect clarity. In daily life, this looks like the ability to complete a task without constant mental drifting, to listen fully, to rest in a moment of quiet without immediately reaching for a phone. It's the cultivated capacity for deep rest within awareness itself. Now, we bring the practice into the living world, into our relationships, our challenges, and the way we meet everything life offers. This is where wisdom becomes compassion, and insight becomes action. Let's start with a principle the Buddha highlighted: the importance of wise relationship to others' words. He once asked, if someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The answer is clear: it remains with the giver. Criticism, anger, judgment, these are often gifts people try to offer us. You have the profound right of refusal. You can see the package being handed to you, recognize it for what it is. This is their frustration, this is their pain. And let it remain with them. You don't have to unpack it, wear it, or make it your home. This requires discernment, which the Buddha framed as right speech applied in reverse. When feedback comes your way, you can run it through a simple filter. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? If a comment is true and helpful, even if awkwardly delivered, there may be a jewel in it for you. Extract the jewel and leave the rough packaging behind. If it is untrue, unhelpful, or cruel, you can simply let it go. It is not your burden. Your worth is not determined by someone else's opinion, any more than the sky is determined by the weather passing through it. I remember a man who worked in a bustling city park, tending the same flower beds for decades. Tourists, children, joggers would pass by, and sometimes they'd comment. Those roses are overpruned, one might say. The tulips would look better over here, another would suggest. Early in his career, he'd feel defensive, angry, or doubtful. But over the years, he developed a profound equanimity. He'd listen, sometimes nod, and continue his work. A friend asked him how he stayed so unbothered. The gardener smiled. I know the soil, he said simply. I know the sun on this plot, the drainage, the roots. Their words are about their idea of a garden. My work is with the real garden, right here. If their idea has truth for this soil, I learn. If it doesn't, it just blows past me, like wine through the trees. The flowers don't listen to opinions. They just grow according to their nature. He had learned not to accept every gift of opinion. His stability came from his connection to the reality he tended, his own inner knowing. This ability not to be blown off center leads us to one of the most beautiful states the Buddha taught, upekkha, or equanimity. Equanimity is not cold detachment. It is a warm, spacious balance. Imagine you are a deep-rooted tree in a meadow. Seasons pass over you. Spring brings gentle sun and soft rains, praise, gain. Summer brings scorching heat and thunderstorms, blame, pain. Autumn brings cooling air and falling leaves, change, loss. Winter brings silent frost, quiet, obscurity. The tree experiences it all. It feels the sun, absorbs the rain, withstands the storm, rests in the frost. But it does not become the sunshine or the storm. Its identity is as a tree, rooted and present through all conditions. It does not celebrate spring as the ultimate truth, nor curse winter as a personal failure. It participates fully in each season while abiding in its own deep, unchanging nature. You cultivate this by remembering the lake, the chair by the window, the breath. You recognize that the 8 worldly winds, of gain and loss, fame and disrepute, praise and blame, pleasure and pain will always blow. Your peace cannot depend on calm weather. It must be the root and trunk that remains steady in any weather. From this place of balance, we can practice the other sublime states, like mudita or sympathetic joy. This is the heartfelt celebration of others' good fortune. In a culture of comparison, this is a radical act of freedom. When a friend succeeds, a colleague is praised, a stranger finds happiness, you practice, may your good fortune continue. How wonderful! This directly counteracts the poison of envy, which is the painful belief that for someone else to have joy, you must have less. Mudita understands that joy is limitless. Lighting another's candle does not dim your own, it increases the total light in the room. Practicing this makes your heart a larger container for happiness, because you can find it and celebrate it everywhere. I knew two sisters who were both artists. One became very successful, her work displayed in famous galleries. The other struggled in obscurity. It would have been easy for the struggling sister to feel bitter. Instead, she became her sister's biggest champion. She helped at openings, celebrated every sale, and genuinely adored her sister's talent. Someone once asked her, "How can you be so happy for her when you haven't had the same break?" She replied, "Her success doesn't shrink my art, it expands my world. I get to see her beautiful creations exist in the world. That itself is a gift to me. My time for my own work will come in its own way. Resenting hers would only poison my own creativity." Her mudita was a testament to her security. She was rooted in her own worth, so she could truly delight in another's. Together, upekkha, equanimity, and mudita, sympathetic joy, create an unshakable inner foundation. You are not tossed by others' fortunes or misfortunes, nor by your own changing circumstances. You can meet life from a place of generous, steady peace. Now we approach one of life's most profound teachers. The reality of endings, of loss, and of the deep-seated fear of impermanence that lives within us. The wisdom of Buddhism does not shy away from this, it meets it with clear-eyed compassion and offers a path to peace within its very truth. Consider the ancient art of creating sand mandalas. Monks painstakingly spend days, even weeks, placing millions of grains of colored sand into intricate, breathtaking patterns, universes of symbolism and beauty. They work with absolute concentration and reverence. And then, when it is complete, in a powerful ceremony, they destroy it. They sweep the vibrant sands into a jar and pour them into a flowing river, returning the artwork to the world. The entire process is a meditation on anicca, impermanence. The beauty is not in the preserving, but in the creating and the letting go. The mandala's true purpose is to demonstrate that all things, even the most exquisite and diligently crafted, are of the nature to change and pass away. The peace is found not in clinging to the form, but in appreciating its transient perfection and participating fully in its natural cycle. We, however, spend our lives trying to make our mandalas permanent. We build identities, careers, relationships, and homes, secretly hoping they will be the finished, eternal masterpiece. We suffer when the sands inevitably shift. The Buddha's radical teaching is to recognize the mandala nature of all things. To love fully, create beautifully, and engage completely, all while holding the truth that this, too, is sand. This is not nihilism, it is the ultimate form of appreciation. Knowing the flower will wilt makes you truly see it now. Knowing the conversation will end makes you truly listen. Knowing the life will pass makes you truly live. I once met a woman who ran a small, cherished pottery studio in a coastal town. Every year, in late autumn, she would host a firing and letting go festival. People would bring their dried, unfired pots, the fragile, pale greenware. Together, they would place them carefully in the kiln, celebrate their creation, and then light the fire. The kiln would burn for a day and a night. The next morning, when it was cool, they would open it. Some pots would emerge strong and beautifully glazed. Others would be cracked, or slumped, or even shattered. There was no predicting. The potter would gather every single piece, the perfect bowls and the fragments alike. She would lead everyone to a high cliff overlooking the sea. And there, they would take turns, not keeping their perfect pots, but throwing them, all of them, the whole and the broken, far out into the ocean waves. "We give back what the fire decided," she would say. "We honor the making, we bow to the transformation, and we release the form. The clay returns to the earth. Our hands are empty, ready to make again." This ritual embodied a fearless relationship with impermanence. It celebrated effort without attachment to a specific outcome. It honored beauty while accepting breakage as part of the process. It practiced non-clinging as an act of devotion, not deprivation. Her studio was always full of joyful creators, because the pressure for a perfect keeper was gone. The joy was in the making itself. This touches the deep teaching of dukkha, the suffering that arises from clinging. Our pain is rarely about the event itself, but about our tight grip on how we wanted it to be. We clutch the sand mandala and cry as it slips through our fingers, rather than marveling at its colors while it exists. The Buddha's path is one of learning to hold life with open hands. To practice this with the heart, we cultivate karu, or compassion. True compassion begins with ourselves. We so often shoot ourselves with the second arrow of self-judgment when we face loss or failure. "I shouldn't feel this sad. Why did I make that mistake?" Compassion says, this is a moment of suffering. It is human. May I be kind to myself in this pain. Then, this compassion naturally extends outward. Seeing others struggle with their own impermanent mandalas, we feel not pity, but a shared understanding of the human condition. We wish for their relief. A powerful way to work with the fear of loss is through a contemplation the Buddha taught, the 5 remembrances. They are simple truths to reflect on. First, I am of the nature to grow old, I cannot avoid aging. Second, I am of the nature to become ill, I cannot avoid illness. Third, I am of the nature to die, I cannot avoid death. Fourth, all that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change, I cannot avoid being separated from them. Fifth, my actions are my only true possessions, I cannot avoid the consequences of my actions. This is not morbid. It is liberating. By gently remembering these truths, we stop arguing with reality. We stop wasting energy on the impossible project of building a life without change or loss. Instead, we focus on what we can do. Live with integrity, love fully now, and cultivate a mind that is peaceful regardless of the changing conditions. It turns our attention from controlling the uncontrollable to tending the quality of our own heart and actions in this present, precious, fleeting moment. Having touched the profound truths of impermanence and compassion, let's now turn to the practical art of integration. How do these teachings cease to be concepts and become the very ground we walk on in a busy, demanding world? The answer lies in transforming our daily habits of mind, starting with one of the most powerful, cultivating gratitude, or catastrophe. The Buddha taught gratitude not as a polite sentiment, but as a direct antidote to the mind's default setting, which is to scan for what's wrong, what's lacking, what's next. This negativity bias is an ancient survival mechanism, but in modern life, it often leaves us feeling perpetually wanting, anxious, and dissatisfied. Gratitude practice is the deliberate retraining of attention. It's choosing to notice the supports that hold you up, the gifts already present. Don't think of it in generalities. The power is in the specific. Not, I'm grateful for my family, but I'm grateful for the sound of my daughter's laughter echoing in the hallway this morning. Not, I'm grateful for my home, but I'm grateful for the particular patch of sunlight warming this corner of the floor right now. This specificity forces the mind out of its abstract, story-making mode and into direct, sensory experience. It grounds you in the tangible reality of your life, which is always richer than the story about it. I learned this from a man who managed a city bridge. His job was to check for wear, to listen for strange sounds in the wind, to ensure the safety of thousands who crossed daily. It was a job steeped in vigilance for problems. One day, I asked if the constant search for flaws made him anxious about the bridge. He shook his head and smiled. Actually, he said, it makes me marvel at it. Every day I see the rivets holding, the cables taut, the paint doing its job against the salt air. I see how it was designed to flex in the wind. My job isn't to find failure, it's to witness resilience. I end each day grateful for the engineering, for the materials, for the fact that it stands. It teaches me to look at my own life the same way, not for cracks, but for what's holding, beautifully, under strain. He had turned his duty of vigilance into a practice of grateful awe. He saw the supports, not just the potential faults. This practice of grateful seeing prepares the ground for true contentment, which is different from fleeting happiness. Contentment, or santuthi in the Buddhist teaching, is the peace that comes from knowing what is enough. It is not settling for less, but the profound realization that peace is not found in the next acquisition, the next achievement, or the next changed circumstance. It is found in fully inhabiting the resources of the present. Your breath is enough. This moment of awareness is enough. From that foundation of enough, you can engage with the world from a place of abundance, not scarcity. Now, let's address a major obstacle to this contentment, the habit of procrastination and avoidance, or what we might call, kicking the peace can down the road. We tell ourselves, I'll be peaceful when this project is over, or I'll meditate when I have more time, or I'll be happy when I finally achieve that goal. This is a subtle and suffering-inducing illusion. It assumes peace is a product of circumstances, rather than a way of relating to circumstances. The Buddha's path is always about the how, not the when. How are you relating to this project? How are you using this moment of waiting? How are you meeting this feeling of lack? Peace is a quality of attention you can bring to washing dishes, sitting in traffic, or listening to a difficult conversation. It is not reserved for the mountaintop. It is the very ground of the path itself. I recall a teacher who was also a beekeeper. He said the bees taught him the ultimate lesson about not procrastinating peace. A bee doesn't think, I'll make honey when I find the perfect flower, in the perfect weather. It goes out in the rain, in the wind, to dandelions and clover alike. It does the work of gathering with a single-minded presence. The hive isn't peaceful because conditions are perfect. The hive is the peace, the organized, purposeful activity in the midst of whatever weather is outside. The honey is almost a byproduct of that engaged, present work. He applied this to his students who would say, "I'll practice mindfulness when my life calms down." He'd reply, "The practice is what creates the calm in the life. You don't wait for the storm to pass to learn to sail. You learn to sail by going out into the weather." Therefore, your formal meditation, those minutes on the cushion or chair, is not a retreat from life. It is the training ground for life. It's where you practice coming back to the breath so you can come back to your child's eyes during a stressful morning. It's where you practice watching thoughts without attachment so you can hear a criticism without crumbling. It's where you touch the bedrock of awareness so you can remember it when the emotional floods come. The integration is seamless. The gratitude you cultivate off the cushion makes you more receptive and gentle in your formal sitting. The concentration you build in sitting gives you the stability to be gratefully present amidst daily chaos. They feed each other. Now we come to the heart of the practice, working directly with the powerful, often overwhelming energies of the heart, anger, grief, fear, and desire. These are not obstacles to a peaceful life, they are the very material of it. The Buddha's path does not ask us to eliminate these forces, but to learn the art of transforming our relationship to them. Think of these emotions not as enemies to be locked away, but as powerful, untamed rivers running through your landscape. The goal is not to dam the river, which only creates immense pressure, but to learn to channel its energy wisely, to irrigate your understanding rather than flood your peace. Let's begin with anger. In its raw form, anger is a blast of energy, a signal that says, "A boundary has been crossed," or "This is unfair." The problem is not the signal, but our habitual, unconscious reaction to it. We tend to either erupt outwardly, causing harm, or implode inwardly, causing sickness. The Buddhist practice offers a third way, to meet anger with mindful curiosity. When you feel the heat of anger rise, the first revolutionary act is to pause. Create one breath of space. In that space, drop your attention from the story, "He did this. She said that," and into the pure physical sensation. Where do you feel it? A tight jaw? A hot chest? Clenched fists? Observe these sensations as you would observe weather patterns in the sky, impersonal, changing phenomena. Say to yourself, "Anger is here. It is a feeling. It is visiting." By doing this, you separate yourself from the identification, "I am angry." You become the spacious sky aware of the storm cloud. You haven't suppressed it, you've given it room to be seen, and in that seeing, it begins to lose its compulsive power over you. You can then choose a response from wisdom, rather than being compelled into a reaction from blind energy. A story comes to mind of a master weaver whose most intricate tapestry was accidentally stained by an apprentice. The deep blue sky of the woven scene was marred by a splash of dark dye. The apprentice was terrified, expecting fury. The master weaver looked at the stain for a long, silent moment. She felt the surge of frustration, the first arrow. Then she breathed, observing the heat in her face, the tension in her hands. She did not fire the second arrows of blame or self-pity. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm. "The tapestry has changed," she said. "Now, we must change with it." Instead of scrapping the work, she had the apprentice carefully unpick the threads around the stain. Then, Using the dark splash as a center, she wove a magnificent, unexpected flock of birds rising from a forest, integrating the flaw into a new, more dynamic story. The stain became the catalyst for greater beauty. Her anger's energy was transformed into creative, compassionate action. Grief is another deep river. It is the natural, loving response to loss. To suppress it is to deny love. Yet, to be completely drowned by it is to suffer unnecessarily. The practice with grief is similar. To create a sanctuary of awareness around it. Allow the tears, the heaviness, the ache. Feel it in the body, the hollow in the chest, the weight in the limbs. Hold it gently in your awareness, as you would hold a grieving child. You are not the grief, you are the compassionate presence holding the grief. This prevents you from becoming lost in the stories of, "I will never be happy again," or, "This is all there is." You can say, "Grief is here. This is what grief feels like." It is a testament to love. In this holding, grief is honored and allowed to move, to flow, and eventually to change form. It becomes a deep, tender part of your landscape, not a swamp that traps you. Fear, especially anxiety about the future, is perhaps the most common visitor. It is the mind's attempt to protect you by simulating danger. The practice is to gently bring it into the present. Anxiety cannot survive in the actual present moment, it feeds on the imaginary future. When you feel fear buzzing, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Listen to the actual sounds around you. Take one breath, right here. Ask, in this exact moment, am I safe? Do I have what I need to breathe, to be aware? Almost always, the answer is yes. You bring the frantic mind back to the sanctuary of the present, where reality is usually manageable. You are training the mind that its true safety lies in presence, not in frantic forecasting. Finally, desire or craving. The Buddha identified this as a primary root of suffering. It's the feeling of, if only I had that, if only I looked like that, if only I achieved that, then I could be happy. The practice with desire is not to condemn it, but to see its emptiness. When a craving arises, for food, for praise, for a new possession, pause and investigate. What is the feeling underneath it? Often, it's a sense of lack, an emptiness we are trying to fill from the outside. Instead of reaching for the object, turn towards the feeling of lack itself. Breathe into that space. Offer it kindness. You may find that the craving is just a restless ghost, pointing to a need for inner nourishment, for presence, for self-compassion. When you meet the emptiness with awareness instead of consumption, the craving often loses its charge and passes on. Working with these emotions is the advanced practice of everyday life. It is how we take the stillness from the meditation cushion and apply it to the moving, feeling, sometimes chaotic experience of being human. Each time you meet a strong emotion with mindful awareness instead of blind reaction, you are not just solving a problem, you are deepening your freedom. You are proving to yourself, in your own experience, that you are vaster than any single wave of feeling. We have navigated the storms of emotion and learned to find the still sky of awareness that holds them. Now, let us explore the culmination of this path, a sense of freedom that is not dependent on circumstance, a peace that is inherent and unshakable. The Buddha called this nibbana, nirvana, not a heavenly realm, but the extinguishing of the fires of craving, aversion, and delusion within the heart. For us, here and now, it manifests as a profound inner freedom. It is the realization that you are not a prisoner of your personality, your past, or your thoughts. You are the quiet, knowing space in which all these things come and go. To understand this freedom, consider the metaphor of the sun and the clouds. Your fundamental awareness, your true nature, is like the sun, constant, radiant, clear, and warm. Your thoughts, moods, memories, and self-concepts are like the clouds. Some clouds are light and fluffy, happy thoughts. Some are dark and stormy, fear, anger, and some form thick, persistent layers, depression, chronic worry. We spend our lives focusing on the clouds, analyzing their shapes, fearing the storms, and longing for the clear blue sky. We forget the sun is always there, shining behind and through the cloud cover. Even on the cloudiest day, the sun has not gone anywhere, it is merely obscured. Your practice is not to battle the clouds, but to remember the sun. To cultivate the direct knowing that you are the radiant awareness itself, and the passing weather of mind cannot alter your fundamental nature. I once met an elderly astronomer who had spent a lifetime studying the stars. His eyes were perpetually turned upward. He lived in a region famous for its terrible fog, which would roll in and obscure the sky for weeks. I asked if he found this frustrating, to be so dedicated to the heavens yet so often blinded by the weather. He laughed softly. "The fog is interesting," he said. "It teaches me faith. I have seen the constellations so many times, I know their patterns by heart. When the fog comes, I don't believe the stars have vanished. I know, with absolute certainty, they are right there, in their same positions, shining. My work continues. I calculate, I review data, I write. The fog is temporary. It is a condition of the atmosphere, not of the cosmos." He had learned to do his work, to live his life. From the unshakable knowing of the star's presence, not from the temporary visibility provided by clear weather. This is living from freedom. You know the nature of your mind, clear, aware, peaceful, and you live from that knowing, regardless of the mental fog of the day. This freedom expresses itself as deep inner resourcefulness. You no longer look for peace, validation, or completion from outside sources, people, achievements, possessions. You have found the wellspring within. This doesn't make you cold or disengaged. On the contrary, it allows you to engage with the world from a place of fullness, generosity, and genuine love, because you are no longer needy. Your relationships become about sharing abundance, not filling emptiness. To sustain this path for a lifetime, the Buddha emphasized the importance of Sangha, community. While your practice is deeply personal, walking the path with others, even metaphorically as we are doing now, provides invaluable support, inspiration, and gentle accountability. It reminds you that you are not alone in your struggles or your aspirations. Sharing the journey dissolves the illusion of separateness that causes so much suffering. The path is also sustained by sila, or ethical conduct. This is often misunderstood as a list of restrictive rules. In reality, it is the foundation that makes deep peace possible. Living ethically, speaking truthfully, acting with kindness, taking only what is given, creates a life of simplicity and inner harmony. It prevents the internal storms of guilt, regret, and anxiety that arise when our actions are out of alignment with our heart. A peaceful mind cannot be built on a foundation of harmful actions. Ethical living clears the debris so the wellspring of peace can flow unobstructed. Finally, the path is sustained by a gentle, persistent commitment to practice, or bhavana, the cultivation of the heart and mind. This is not a grim discipline, but a daily returning to yourself, like a musician practicing scales not as a chore, but as a loving devotion to the music they are becoming capable of playing. Some days your practice will feel deep and clear. Other days it will feel shallow and distracted. Both are perfect. The point is the faithful return, the gentle reaffirmation of your intention to wake up. Imagine a path through a forest to a beautiful, clear mountain lake. Some days you walk briskly and reach the lake easily. Other days, you get distracted by interesting side paths, or you sit down to rest, or you walk slowly, looking at the flowers. But as long as you know the direction of the lake and you keep putting one foot in front of the other on the main path, you are never lost. You are always on the journey. The lake, the piece of your own nature, is always there, waiting for your arrival in any given moment. Your practice is simply walking the path home. This is the gift of the Buddha's teaching. It does not promise a life without clouds or fog. It offers you the direct knowledge of the sun that shines eternally behind them. It does not promise you will never feel pain. It gives you the unshakable foundation of a heart that can hold pain without breaking. It is a path of coming home, over and over again, to the freedom and peace that have always been your birthright. We arrive now at a point of integration, where the vast view of the sun and clouds meets the earthy path beneath our feet. How do we live this? Not as a fleeting experience, but as an abiding way of being. The answer lies in weaving these truths into the simplest, most repetitive moments of your day. The grandest freedom is sustained by the smallest commitments. Let's release the idea of a distant, finished enlightenment. Instead, consider the Japanese concept of kaizen, continuous, incremental improvement. But here, we apply it not to output, but to the quality of our awareness. Your spiritual practice is the commitment to a 1% shift in attention, a 1% deeper breath, a 1% kinder thought, repeated countless times throughout the day. This is how mountains are moved, not with a single shove, but grain by grain, breath by breath. Begin with your mornings. The first moments upon waking are incredibly potent, as the mind is soft and receptive, not yet armored by the day's agenda. Instead of reaching for your phone, grant yourself just 60 seconds. Open your eyes, and before you move, simply feel. Feel the weight of your body on the mattress, the texture of the sheets, the quality of the light in the room. Take 3 conscious breaths. In these breaths, do not plan or remember. Just be the one who is awake, aware, and alive. You are setting the tone, reminding yourself of your primary identity as awareness before you put on the costume of your roles. Then, introduce purposeful pauses. These are not long meditations, but micro-sanctuaries. Let the ring of a phone, the chime of a timer, the red glow of a traffic light be your bells of mindfulness. When you hear or see one, let it be a cue to stop, just for the duration of one full breath. Feel the air moving in and out. Ground yourself in the body. In that second, you step out of automatic pilot and into conscious being. You are reclaiming your life from the rush, one signal at a time. A beautiful story of this kind of integration comes from a master carpenter I heard of, who worked on restoring ancient temples. His work was slow, methodical, and silent. He was asked how he maintained such patience and precision. He replied, "I am not building a temple. With each stroke of my plane, I am smoothing my own mind. With each careful joint, I am joining myself to the present moment. The temple that rises is almost a byproduct. The true restoration happens here," and he tapped his heart. "The wood tells me when I am rushed, when I am angry, when I am distracted, because the cut will be wrong. So I must always return to calm, to attention. My workshop is this bench, and my practice is this breath, guiding this tool." He had dissolved the barrier between spiritual practice and daily work. Every action was an act of mindfulness, every task a meditation. You can do this with any activity: typing an email, washing a dish, folding laundry. Let the activity itself be the teacher that calls you back to presence. This leads to the practice of mindful listening, which is one of the greatest gifts you can offer to the world and to yourself. Most of our listening is not listening at all, it is rehearsing. While another person speaks, we are formulating our response, judging their words, or drifting into our own memories. True listening is an act of surrender. It is to quiet your inner commentary and receive the sound of their voice, the meaning behind their words, the emotion within their silence. You listen with your whole being. In doing so, you give the speaker a profound gift, the experience of being truly seen and heard. And you give yourself the gift of connection, pulling you out of the isolation of your own thoughts. Similarly, practice mindful speaking. Before you speak, pause for the duration of one breath. Ask yourself inwardly, is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This tiny filter, born from the Buddhist teaching of right speech, can prevent oceans of misunderstanding and pain. It transforms communication from reactive noise into intentional connection. Finally, we come to the practice of letting go at day's end. As you prepare for sleep, perform a simple review. Not a critique, but a gentle scan. Sit or lie comfortably. Recall the day like watching a film and fast forward. Notice moments where you were present, where you were kind, where you remembered the sun behind your clouds. Also notice moments where you got lost, reactive, or tense. Do not judge any of it. For each moment, simply whisper, "Ah, yes. That happened." Then, with your next exhalation, imagine releasing the entire day, the successes, the failures, the pleasures, the irritations, like dropping a heavy cloak from your shoulders. It is done. It is past. You are here, now, in the quiet dark, just breathing. You are clearing the slate of your heart so you can rest in pure awareness, untethered from the stories of yesterday, open to the possibility of tomorrow. This is the sustainable path. It is not about adding more to your to-do list, but about infusing what you already do with a different quality of attention. It is about becoming intimate with your life as it is, not as you think it should be. And so, we have come to the final stretch of our journey together, though, in truth, it is not an end, but a new beginning in your own understanding. This is not the closing of a book, but the turning of a page to one you will write yourself, from the clarity we've nurtured. Let us gather everything, not as a complex philosophy, but as a simple, living truth you can carry in your heart. The essence of all we've explored is this: peace is not a place you get to. It is not a reward for good behavior or a prize for when everything is finally in order. Peace is the fundamental nature of the awareness that is reading these words right now. It has been with you since your first breath. You have simply been looking away, captivated by the dazzling, sometimes terrifying, show of thoughts and feelings playing out on its screen. The practice has always been about turning your gaze back to the screen itself, to that which is looking, rather than that which is seen. Think of it as learning to rest in the source of the light, rather than chasing the shadows it casts. All the teachings, the lake, the theater, the sun and clouds, the two arrows, are just different ways of pointing you back to the light of your own conscious presence. This is your true home. You are not a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance, you are the very sky through which the wind moves. Now, let me offer you a final story of integration. There was a woman who lived in a noisy, bustling city. She longed for peace and would often travel far to silent retreats in the mountains. At the retreats, she would find a deep, resonant quiet that felt like her true self. But upon returning to the city, the noise, the traffic, the chatter, the demands, would quickly overwhelm her, and her peace would feel like a distant dream. One day, an old teacher at a retreat gave her an unusual instruction. He handed her a small, smooth stone. "This is your mountain silence," he said. "Your task is not to bring your city self to the mountain. Your task is to bring the mountain to your city self. Carry this stone. When you hear a siren, feel the stone. When you are in a crowded train, feel the stone. Let it remind you that the silence is not a location. It is a layer of your being, and you can touch it anytime, by feeling what is solid and present within you, no matter the chaos outside." She did this. The stone became her anchor. A honking horn was no longer an assault, but a signal to feel the cool, solid weight in her palm, and thus the inner solidity of her own awareness. The city did not change, but her relationship to it transformed utterly. She realized the peace of the mountain had never been outside her. It was the depth of her own attention, which she had only learned to access in the quiet. Now, she could access it anywhere. The stone was just a finger pointing to the moon of her own nature. This is your invitation. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to change your job, your relationships, or your past. You simply need to find your stone, your breath, the feeling of your feet on the ground, the silent witness behind your thoughts, and touch it constantly throughout your day. Let the triggers of life, the stress, the joy, the boredom, become not distractions, but doorbells ringing, reminding you to come home to the feeling of being present. So, as we part ways in this formal sense, I leave you with 3 foundational intentions, so simple they cannot fail. First, the intention of remembering. Once a day, remember you are the sky, not the weather. In a moment of stress, pause and say inwardly, "This is a passing storm in the vast sky of me." This one act of reframing can dissolve years of accumulated identification with struggle. Second, the intention of returning. Let your breath be your home address. Whenever you feel lost, disconnected, or afraid, you can always return to the next inhale and exhale. You are never more than one breath away from the present moment, which is the only place where peace resides. Third, the intention of kindness. Start with yourself. When you notice self-judgment, gently interrupt it. Place a hand on your heart and offer the same kindness you would to a dear friend. This compassionate attention is the soil in which all other flowers of practice bloom. Walk gently with yourself. This path is paved with patience, not perfection. Some days you will remember vividly. Other days you will forget completely. Both are part of the path. The forgetting is not a failure, it is the necessary contrast that makes the remembering meaningful. Each time you wake up from the trance of thought, you are practicing the most important skill there is, the art of coming home. Thank you, deeply, for sharing this time and this journey. Thank you for the courage to look within and the compassion to begin. You have everything you need already. The teacher, the teaching, and the truth are all within you. May you trust that. May you be a gentle guardian of your own peace. May you recognize the light of your own awareness in every face you meet. And may you be free. Rest now, in the knowing that you are, and have always been, home. As our shared journey of words comes to a close, let there be no sense of an ending, but rather a quiet beginning. The beginning of your own direct experience, lived from this moment forward. The voice you hear now will fade, but the silent awareness that heard it, that vast, open, peaceful knowing, that does not fade. That is your constant companion. That is your true nature. Return to it not as a task, but as a resting place. It is the breath before thought, the stillness between sounds, the love beneath all fear. You are not alone. In remembering your true nature, you join a timeless stream of awake hearts. Every moment of your conscious presence adds to the peace of the world. Your calm is a gentle revolution. So, go gently into your day, into your life. Carry no burden from these hours. Let the teachings settle like leaves in a still pond, revealing the clear water of your own understanding. May you walk in peace. May your heart be light. May you know, beyond any doubt, that you are home. Be well, dear friend. The path continues with your very next breath. End of script.